with quite a bit of interesting banners coming our way, is the perfect time to start saving for your crystals and vouchers for. Here in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys about what you can expect in the following months to prepare for the upcoming banners. So be prepared, get ready to start saving because I'm sure that you guys will be interested in what you're going to be seeing here. And before we go any further, as I will always say, pull for anyone that you like and don't let anyone else say otherwise. I'm simply making this video to give my opinion on things and help you guys all out. We all have our preferences on how we do things and play. So as of right now, as of recording this, we have Abishai, who is very skippable. He's just a DPS, albeit a very good one. He's really only great in PvE the most, and over there they're simply replaced by any DPS. However, if you do pull for him, he's probably going to be the best due to his multiple at the end, high damage power, and sustainability. His banner partner Lookman is also a DPS but requires a bit of understanding on the character to truly make him work. He wants to work alongside other allies who gets applied by his talent buff called Unity. That right there benefits both him and those allies by having a damage boost, mobility, healing, and him being able to ignore guard. I will admit he can work well, but that requires you to know how to play the character. So he can perform well, but he probably won't be as interesting compared to the other characters on this list. Like Dragon Slayer here, the best tank in the game. I'm sure a lot of us can understand and are well aware just what he is capable of. He has about everything that should not make sense. Able to be a damage dealer, has very great sustainability, great mobility, and his infamous multiple revive that can be refreshed over and over again. Even though I dislike the character very much, I highly recommend that you guys pull for him, as he will literally carry you throughout the entire game with little to no effort. He is absolutely broken. The next major update features Leia. She's an interesting AoE attacker who can frequently attack since she just needs to deal damage to act again. Before using a skill, she gets Radiance to be immune to debuffs and reflect silence. Being able to stack these is quite important for her 3C. Its passive lets her attack first and self-heal while stealing buffs. It even has the Seraphina effect of being able to insta-kill. Her other skills include an Act Again that increases her AoE range and her Best Reach skill that switches to another skill. She can be an infantry too, so Balance Blade will be a high priority on her. So her skills may not hit hard, but they need to connect to each other in order to see some meaningful damage. And that's honestly her biggest problem. Like, even then, she doesn't really have anything to help her survive. Usually characters have something to mitigate that problem, but Leia truly doesn't. Sure, you could say that, oh, her 3C buff, but it can easily be dealt with. Oh, and there's the issue of her wanting to be at 5 stars too, so that her Act Again can proc frequently. So I would honestly skip her. However, for me though, I will be pulling for her since I do love my AoE characters. Her banner partner Elvis is a little bit of a shift into their kits. He's kind of like a mixture of Atelier and Tabris. He's all about ignoring guard and hiding. But be careful though, because once he takes damage, he'll instantly lose those effects. Luckily, he can act again when it happens, so he's able to reset. When he's under that effect, he wants to use it along with his 3C to keep set effects and be sure it kills. Otherwise, he's just going to be standing there helpless. I'll go ahead and show his other skills since it's really nothing too crazy to take note of. The biggest issue with him is that he has no Act Again to rely on, but it makes sense with the way how his talent works. His mobility is pretty decent, but he wants to stay healthy to get those 2 extra mobility. So at that point, I would recommend Breeze on him. On paper, he sounds great, right? But when you have someone like LLR Vargas running around, she'll make his job really tough. So it's going to be very difficult for him to do anything. I smelled it too, who has self-range AoE. His talent is the only thing that makes him functional and is his biggest drawback. One simple AoE is enough for him to be useless, and will need that one extra turn to set up again. Elvis could have been a great character, but unfortunately, he came at the worst time. Awakener does return in this update period, and I highly suggest everyone, if you don't have her, pull for her. The biggest reason is because she is the only viable time faction buffer in the game still. I already made a dedicated video explaining why, so I recommend checking that out if you're curious. I can't stress this enough. In my opinion, she should be one of the most sought after characters to go for. She's a great support DPS who can control how the battle will play out. But most importantly, the only viable time faction buffer in the game. She's going to be important for a lot of the collabs coming out, like Fairy Tail, who is coming out literally right after her. A lot of people's most anticipated collab, including myself as well. I will say that they're not overtly overpowered. They will disappear forever, so there is that FOMO factor. I want to begin with my favorite character in Fairy Tail, Erza. She's an incredibly strong DPS that has constant damage ramping and mobility. Her usability is only really best in PvE since she becomes way stronger if there's more enemies than allies. Not to say that she can't be used in PvP. You know, there's that Atelier and revive that she has, so she can tank bust and stay alive. The biggest problem is what you can expect. Usually in PvP, there's an even playing field, so that means she loses a little less mobility. Probably the biggest factor, losing a ton of damage. Also, there's no AoEs and ignore guards, so yeah, there's that. Regardless though, I cannot wait for her to release. I'm definitely going to be using her a lot. Lucy here is the most flexible one here. Sorta? She's basically like Bright Summoner, but a little more complicated. She and her summon applies a thing called Star and Moon to do different effects, like for example having more range. But that's only with Star though. Moon does fixed damage. You can have two different summons which you can guess do different things. One summon is focused on AoE and the other one is single targets. Both of which are very powerful under the right circumstances and helps boost Lucy in what she does. There's another one here that increases her damage and mobility, changing into another skill that is an AoE. So she can be a strong mixed attacker, applying two different effects that even her summon can do. So there is some good synergy right there. You can follow up with each other to deal, you know, something like crazy double AoEs, or something very sneaky for someone to do an AoE attack to apply Star to have the massive range, and then Lucy can do an ignore guard skill. I know that was a lot of information for Lucy, especially with the summoning thing right there, so hopefully me simplifying it was enough to understand. Of course, you got the main character Natsu. He's a free character that you get by farming the event, so he's not going to be on par with them sadly enough. Another damage ramping character that needs to stack to allow different effects with his skills. One big thing about him is his transformation form to boost his damage and turn into a demon. This is why stacking his flame is important, because at 5 stacks under his transformation, he can act again. Another important thing to note is that his form will be extended if an ally or enemy dies, and he needs to kill them. Why? I don't know. Would have been a lot better if his allies could do it for him as well, but unfortunately he got that free character treatment. Otherwise, he'll suffer a long cooldown. Thankfully though, that's the only thing that's really punishing. But his base form is also pretty fine since he can still hit hard, but obviously him transforming reveals more potential. So yeah. However, next banner are a bit more next level. Rapier comes right after Fairy Tail. Her whole gimmick is applying this effect called Justice Combat, which you do want to be at 5 stars for with her so that she can spam it, and it is quite necessary because it doesn't last long. It does some ridiculous stuff like dispelling 5 buffs, revive disable, and an interesting take on Atelier where an ally attacks them, she can teleport near them, can remove debuff and apply them as well. Basically a unique way of technically ignore guard. That's something you can do. Because with the 3C, by fighting anyone within 3 blocks of the target with Justice Combat, that enemy will battle instead. To add more to this, she has an AoE skill and an Atelier as well. So there's a few ways to go about it, which is very nice with her. And all of it will pay off. whether it's to tank bust, sneak a kill, even has 2 methods of approaching. Really great character with an obvious flaw, which is that she only wants to target a specific enemy. So that is why it is strongly recommended that you have her at 5 stars for. But if you're able to accomplish what she wants to do, it'll work out very well. Plus, it's not like she wants to do tank busting or ignore guard all the time. She does have an AoE skill to make up for that trouble, if needed. Next, you have Sharikh. At first glance, looking at his talent, you would think that he's an assassin. I mean, technically he is, but in actual reality, he's an AoE attacker. Because of his talent though, he's one of the few characters who can actually crit with his AoE, and also have fixed damage to follow up right after too. So his damage potential will be great. You know, he also has debuff too that will be very annoying to deal with, so that makes him all the more better. The only issue with him is his mobility. So funny enough, he does have a cavalry path, so you can equip balance blade on him. And with that, you want to use breeze with him as well. Also, he does have an ignore guard skill, so there is that. Then we have the 7th anniversary character, Humbaba, a support DPS who buffs the origin team and protects them by providing a shield and be invisible to enemy skills. At the start of the battle, she applies 1 or 2 butterfly spirit nearby her team, which provides the shield and butterfly breath to be invisible to skills, like I said. If the ally with breath are killed, then the damage is transferred to the enemy, and she has a range that works similar to Patricia. Her 1C is very good, saying that she can manually place the butterfly spirit by removing breath 3 blocks around herself, and able to reposition an ally nearby it to apply a shield and act again. So instead of having to chase wherever it lands for those buff, right? You can set it accordingly to where you want to go. So you will be using this very often. She has a damage wrapping skill that can force the enemy to teleport around her tile to reduce the mobility and disable guard. Very amazing stuff to see. Imagine forcing someone like Vargas away from his teammates, so that way he won't be able to punish anyone who tries to get close to them, and most importantly, protect his team. Her 3C buffs origin team, and it's an AoE to apply debuffs, and all butterfly effects can activate the skill, which if the same enemy takes damage consecutively, the damage is increased, and debuff is applied more. Afterwards, the cooldown of all ally skills is reduced by each hit. Having her around to buff origin team and keep your team alive, she doesn't have the typical range that most magic DPS have, so she wants her teammates to help with that. Other than that though, she doesn't offer any more than that unless you have an origin ally, so you would honestly have to treat her like a sub DPS in that regard. At least what she's doing is very consistent. During this update, most of the limited banners do appear, like Bright Summoner, who is a great support DPS, Faction Buffer for the Glory team, Enya, who is a fantastic support character, Sirena for Dark teams, Ice Melda, who can inflict constant tons of freeze, Awakener does make a return, and even LLR Vargas to control the battle with their class change effect and help boost super effective damage. Coming right to the end here, the last 2 characters, they're still quite new, so there's still more to be discovered with them. First, we'll look at Cybele. She can summon a dragon that has its own skills. If it's within 4 blocks, by entering battle, she attacks first and make them lose control, which is an infuriating debuff to deal with. She has an active skill to select an ally or enemy summon to teleport with the dragon to act again and boost her damage. A single target to displays, and if there's other troops or an inaccessible terrain, the dragon attack twice. Then you have the 3C for the revive and armor disable, and the dragon can attack with. So Cybele and her dragon must always stick together because they will always follow up with each other when they do an attack. Yes, the dragon does have a skill where Cybele follow-ups right after the dragon too. So there's a high likelihood of being able to land a kill, since you're essentially attacking twice. What's pretty funny about this is that even though she has like other good single target skills, you're always going to be carrying her unique skills all the time since it affects both her and the dragon. All in all though, she doesn't really do anything that is essentially crazy, but she is generally a fun character to use, and it's enough for me to pull for her. I feel like that she is quite a uniquely fun character to try out. Bianca is the last one that we'll talk about. She has a gun and shield mode. The shield, of course, gives a shield, a revive, and enemies can't act again nearby. Gun mode boosts damage, disable armor, or apply damage increase, both of which last 2 turns. So shield mode, you're getting the best out of this. While in gun mode, it is okay-ish, it's nice and all, but I feel like that she should have gotten another range in general. It's gun mode. Why does she have more range? Like, one more range would have sufficed. She has an act again skill to teleport onto a defensive terrain or ally for buffs, so she can use this and then switch into whatever mode that you want. A single target that has a passive where if ally dies, she goes into gun mode with Terrain Master. In this part here, I feel like it should be increase the enemy's skill cooldown, not reduce it. By reducing it, you're essentially helping the enemy out. If there's no enemies nearby, she can move back and have increased range in gun mode. A guard skill here for another revive if there's nearby allies, where she does get a shield and reduce her damage taken. Amazing stuff to see right there. Seeing as the shield does have a cooldown would boost the defense on top of that, her survivability will be quite amazing. Lastly, her 3C is a single target that follow-ups with an AoE if in gun mode, but with shield, they cannot move or guard. Bianca is indeed quite interesting, seeing as she flips between 2 different playstyles. I will say that her shield is by far definitely gives her the best buffs, seeing as it actually gives her what she really needs to survive things. So her potential as a tank is really amazing. However, I cannot say the same thing about her gun mode. It is okay, but I'm more so disappointed in seeing that there's no +1 more range. Like in general, like these effects don't really last that long, so I feel like that would have definitely gave her more oomph that she needed. Seeing that it's literally called a gun technique, it doesn't really feel like that. And at last, I do want to mention the confirmed announcement of the Atelier Ryza collab. There's still no info about this, but I just want to put this in here just as a heads up. Alright, so that was about everything to look forward to in order to save your crystals vouchers accordingly. I did try my best to not get too carried away by taking a very long time to talk about each of the characters. So hopefully I simplified it enough to get my point across the characters I went over. I will admit that I am going to be doing something similar like this very soon, hopefully. And one of them will be understandably long, so hopefully the rest isn't like that. I will also have a video of my first impression on the 7th anniversary. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Anyways though, if you guys enjoyed what you saw here and want to see more just like it, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps push the video out so that more people can see and help out. Also feel free to let me know down in the comments if this has helped your future plans and what character are you guys looking forward to. For me, if I haven't made it obvious enough, 1000% actually, 1000% fairy tale, and then a little bit of the anniversary. Cannot wait for it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.